Welcome to Empowered by AI, the podcast for women entrepreneurs ready to harness AI to take their businesses to the next level. I'm your host, Michelle Muncie Silva, founder of Innovative AI Studios. You may have left corporate life to start this entrepreneurial journey, but you don't have to go it alone. Here, you'll find a supportive community of like-minded women and an invaluable thought partner each week, as my guests and I share actionable insights you can use right away. So let's dive in together. So I really want to start off with first, welcome. I just so appreciate you, Suzanne, taking the time to talk with us and get us up to speed with some of your what I would consider to be expertise, because it's not the area that I am an expert in at all. You have a history with product management, program management. You've been project manager for some very large companies. And I really am interested in how you came to AI with that background.
Sure. My last job was at Walmart, which obviously Fortune 1, right, company. And my role there was really focusing on the technology solutions for our marketing and creative team. So that was a team of about 300 people, and I oversaw that tech stack. So that would be evaluating new tools to bring in and identifying different ways to improve efficiency. A lot of that work was really rolling out a workflow management program, which actually is an Adobe tool, which is where I currently work. So while I would say around 2023, looking at all those different AI tools were really starting to become something more talked about, I looked at how can we start using this to maybe enhance the way that our creative team was working through concepting or maybe in writing, doing research. So Walmart had a emerging tech team on like the real global scale. And they were developing some tools. So I took a look to see what they were working on, to see if there was anything that we could leverage. And they had built in a large language model that was like in-house. So immediately took to that and said, okay, great. Is this something that we can get our creative team trained on? And I looked into ways to start rolling that out to people. And in addition, there was a lot of different like photo companies like Getty and Shutterstock that were doing some AI image generation. So I looked at different webinars and things that our creative team could be using or looking at to do that. Really, that's what got me really excited in the beginning. All this large team, lots of opportunity there. But unfortunately, I got laid off. But I found that to be a really great opportunity because I used that time to really just dive in full time to AI. And what I mean full time, I was doing AI work for about 10 to 12 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really got a chance to dive in.
Yeah. I had started building my resume and going out on job interviews. But then all these tools were starting to pop up, and I'm like, wow, this is really exciting. And I started watching Kyle Shannon on AI. Wow. And that was right about the time that OpenAI launched GPTs. And he quickly spun one up, and I'm like, wow, I can do that. So I really found myself following along with Kyle and testing out a lot of these tools, different large language models and different image generation tools, things like Perplexity and Claude, Creo, whatever he was doing for the evening. I would be like, I can do that. That looks really cool. So I tried out dozens of tools, and it was really fun. I built 50 GPTs during that time that I wasn't working.
Oh my, that's one or two. Holy cow.
Yeah. So that really, with the GPTs, it was really just rethinking like, how can I take what I'm doing in my everyday life and apply it to building a GPT? I think in general, I've just been really excited about AI, and I was really lucky that I had 6 months to really test things out and do that full time. That helped me land my job at Adobe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was able to talk about how I had spent my time and all the different tools I was using, and it really got people interested and engaged because Adobe is at the leading edge of developing a lot of things. So I was really lucky and got a job there. I saw that as a great opportunity to dive in. My role isn't as an AI product manager, it's on their Customer Zero project, which is for Gen Studio solution, which is taking a lot of the Adobe tools and creating an end-to-end workflow. And there will be AI involved in that. So
Okay.
it's really exciting looking at how can you refine the entire content generation process. And
I absolutely love the history that you're bringing up because I think it's really allowed you to have this kind of I think of it almost as a luxury, right? This idea of not only did you get to play, but now you're getting to play putting it into application. And I've actually had the pleasure of listening to one of your presentations where you talk about really developing this problem-driven approach to unlocking AI solutions for people, for workflows, if you will. Can you explain what that means to you and why you think it's so critical for business owners to consider?
sure. So really what I think of when people approach AI, it's one of two different ways. The first is a tool first approach. So it's just what I mentioned with AI Learning Lab and Kyle Shannon, which is great. It's trying out a bunch of new tools as they emerge and then just coming up with more use cases on, wow, that's really cool. Now, how can I use it in my life? And it's exciting, but it also can get really overwhelming really quick. There's just so many different areas that you could try AI tools: productivity, image generation, video creation, automation, avatars, and you can end up down a rabbit hole of all these different cool tools. And you're constantly like, how can I use this? And how can I use that? And you're just jumping from platform to platform. And what happened to me is I really got tool fatigue. Like I'm a shutdown. Like wow, this is too much. I need a break. And I really had to take a break for weeks because it was just every day, it was just more. And I realized that a lot of the times I was coming up with use cases where maybe a solution wasn't really needed. There was nothing broken. I don't need to fix anything. So why am I trying to use AI to everything? And it actually started leading to more inefficiencies instead of actual improvements. So, for example, some people are using AI to draft emails. So I tried that. And then I tried to put an automation in there and it would generate it and send it over to Gmail and do this and do that. And I could just cut and paste it. It would be a lot faster. Why do I need to do all these click here, do this, automate that? And I'm like, cut and paste works great. So I was over engineering everything.
Mhm.
So the other way, which is I find more effective, is a problem first approach. So it's really taking a real world challenge and researching what AI tools might actually solve it. And it really shifts really from what can AI do? What are all the cool bells and whistles to what do I need help with?
And
And
that's, I think, what is so important in the work that you do, because you're flipping it on its head, but you're honoring what I think a lot of people have started to experience, which is the overwhelm.
exactly. And I think I went back to this really from my background in product management or project management. I really as excited and as curious as I was about AI. And it was easy to jump in and do all these cool things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with starting to learn AI that way at all. But I realized that the more I did that, I really needed to step back a bit and now refocus with a more strategic approach.
Mhm.
So through my background in product management, there's different phases that you go through in order to solve problems. Really that discovery phase, what problem am I solving? What are your pain points? And then research and design, what tools might be available to help solve that problem? What are solution design essentially? Looking at everything out there. If you're focused on solving a problem around video editing, going out, looking at the full landscape of what's out there, what are the features, how can that really help solve your problem? And then does that tool need custom configuration or can you just plug and play? And then going through a testing phase And also seeing how does that fit into your current workflow? Because you may not be adjusting other parts of your workflow. So how does that all plug in holistically to make things flow? Going through testing. And then if you're a solopreneur, and it may not be as important, but if you have a team, even of a couple of people, you have to go through an implementation and onboarding phase. So you're all aligned with the same objectives and training and knowing how things are working going forward. And then really that change management and that continuous refinement going forward. So and taking those steps really helped refocus me into kind of the going forward. I think with like thinking about identifying a problem, let's say you're struggling with writer's block, something I do. Yeah. If you research like AI tools, you really need to find what's the one that fits your needs. There's a lot of them out there. So ChatGPT and Claude may be great, but there may be something like Jasper or something else that may be better suited. So instead of diving into that one, it's really looking at your entire problem so that you can go and find that right tool, right?
And that
So
gives you a whole nother lens to consider. Then you've got this idea of now it's personal. Now it's personalized to me. It's not just a generic experience.
exactly, because there's lots of tools out there that will help with writing, but what's
Mhm.
the one that will help with where you need the help? So it's really identifying that problem and then finding the right AI tool to go to solve that problem for you.
And then I'm curious because you talked about creating custom GPTs and how has problem first process helped you do that? Because I'm fascinated with the idea of a custom GPT if it's going to help me solve an issue that I'm having. So what is your approach to creating that?
When I first started building GPTs, that was in November 2023, and I was watching Kyle's AI Learning Lab, and I was like, that is super cool. I can do that. And he did one, I think it was the Sin City Sipper. And I'm like, what GPT could I build for me? And it can be small. I can start simple and what's going on in my everyday life, something I could use. And so I love manifesting. And I'm like, okay, how can I design this GPT experience to be something I can use in my everyday life? I designed my first GPT was Manifest Your Dream Life. And right now it has over 10,000 conversations, I believe, which is pretty amazing.
That is so incredible. I used that one. When I saw that you created it, I dove into that one. That one is fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's really exciting. But I think looking at going back to what are you solving for, I really think that I started with those initial GPTs having fun and then really looking at, okay, what are the tasks that I'm doing repetitively? What are things that this can really add value? For example, if I do something once, maybe I can just write a prompt. But if I see myself doing it over and over again, like I was job hunting, for example, and I had a last minute interview and I quickly needed to prep. So in ChatGPT, I'm putting together all these questions and information from the job description and my resume and doing a gap analysis. And that was great for that one-off thing. And I'm like, whoa, why don't I just design a GPT? Then I don't have to keep writing that same prompt. And I think really what I've realized is I do a lot of shorthand in my daily life. That's the way I think. It's always, I'm doing multitasking, I'm doing a bunch of things, and I just want to be quick. And it may be also because I think with all of us using Google, you only type in a few words, right? LLMs don't really work best that way. They really need more information. And I realized if I type in a really well structured prompt, it helps get me there faster with the results that I need. But I don't want to keep doing that over and over again. So similarly with that like job hunting experience, once I designed that long prompt, then I can put it in a GPT and then I can literally just throw in my resume or the job description and say, please review back to the shorthand and it outputs in a format that is usable for me. And my style would be bullet points or tables, very concise, and it's going to give me that information back in my format. So thinking of it as like an assistant where you have your admin who's trained to your style, and they already know your instructions. So you can say, hey, book me travel, and they can go off and they know all everything, your preferences for travel. You don't have to go through a whole list every time. So I really think of a GPT kind of is developing those guardrails initially, and then boom, you can just let it do its work.
And that's what I was going to ask you is like, how do you help people who want to start building, but maybe they're a little intimidated by the technology? Like they've spent some time playing, but the idea of building their own custom GPT is intimidating. Do you have some advice for them for how to get started?
Sure. I truly think just starting small, keeping it simple. You really don't need to build anything complicated. And I was training a friend the other day on how to build one. There's Chat GPT, there's a whole section that you can just create it. You just type what you want naturally, and it will build it for you. You don't really have to do much. So build a few that way. Keep it really simple. And then eventually, as you get more comfortable with the technology, you can go in and start learning about editing and refining it. But I would really go back to that thing, which is what is the task that you need, that you do all the time? Maybe you summarize notes, or you're drafting emails, or some type of, you need things to be edited. What problem do you want to solve? Keep it simple and just go from there.
Mm-hmm. And you've been really candid about your productivity hacks, like managing all the tabs that are open at any given time. How has AI helped you improve your personal productivity?
Sure. I think with a lot of people, I have more of an issue with, what is that blank page syndrome, where I don't know where to get started. And I think my biggest hack really on a lot of those is just using it to brainstorm and then refine it and keep refining it. I think that's really every day where it's most helpful. And then going back to the real hack is utilizing those custom instructions with the formats that I want. So I'm thinking of it as that pre-prompt, which I mentioned. So I already know this is the format I want. And I have my instructions, and then I can just use it as an editor, and it's already flowing in the style that I want. So it's more concise instead of being long-winded, because ChatGPT could go on and on forever. And I think
It just wants to make you happy.
that's why they keep giving more information. I'm like, no, more bullet points, keep it concise. And I like pros and cons. I like to think ideas through. I like, hey, option A, option B, what one looks better? And so I've trained it to work in the way that I like to work best.
And I really am interested in something that you said as well about how you were able to showcase the time that you spent playing with AI. How can professionals really effectively position their AI knowledge, even if they're just starting to build that expertise? How do you really recommend that they highlight what they've done?
I would say that it's really about not focusing so much on the tools, but really on what you're learning. The curiosity, the ability to be flexible and adaptive, being able to pick things up quickly. I would say those are really the areas I would focus on, whether that is highlighting that in your LinkedIn profile, or your resume, or during interviews, because a lot of people aren't going to know what all these different tools are. If you ramble off a list, they may not actually know what they do, but they will know those kind of the softer skills that you're bringing to the table, right? So
That
I
makes
would say
sense.
focus mostly on that. And then we talk about exploring and playing. That's great. Let them know you're not afraid to try new things and see how it could adapt to their workflow. And I would say that would be my advice, really. But I think,
Showcase that soft skill development.
yeah, I would say that instead of focusing on specific tools, unless, of course, like if you're a designer, knowing all the top, like Mid Journey, and that might come in handy. But if you're someone who's looking for more of a general position, I would say just showing that you're adaptive. I really think that they always talk about AI replacing everybody, but I really don't think it's necessarily AI that's going to replace people right away. It's going to be people who know AI, people who are ready to embrace it and help look for productivity gains, looking for ways to use AI to get better research, have better results. I would say that highlighting that you're ready to dive in to see how AI could be applied to their business.
And what do you think is going to be next for you with your AI path? What are there any projects or tools that you're excited to explore right now?
I love working at Adobe. It's been great being able to get an early glimpse into some of the AI enhancements across their tools and across, let's say, the content supply chain, which is really the area that I focus on. I'm learning as much as I can about exploring AI workflows within, let's say, the Adobe tools, but just in general, like how that would apply even in other types of tools. But I think after Adobe, looking ahead, I would be thinking about going more into a fractional or even a full-time AI business process consultant role. I think that's
Mm.
really where I would maybe see myself in the next year or two. As far as new tools, as much as I love trying them out, I keep, even though like I'm in a working group with a few people on exploring, I think it's like AI prototyping is what it's called. And every week we explore something new, avatars or agents or something. I still keep going back to what the heck are we solving for?
Mm.
So I don't have a specific tool that I'm looking to try out. I'll just open something up and play with it. But I really find that looking at what is the problem and then going and exploring as tools is really where I think I'm going to stay going forward. Because otherwise, I'm there back chasing all those tools again. Oh my goodness, look at Grok 3 came out this. I have to try that. And it quickly gets me overwhelmed.
And that sounds like an amazing piece of advice to give as well, because it's like that idea of remember that you're never going to be able to explore all of the tools, right? It's just not possible. Why put that on yourself?
Yeah, I would say so. I spoke to somebody who is one of those huge AI influencers on LinkedIn and has webinars and does all that. And I think, just in a small little group. And so they were pretty open and candid. And I said, hey, how does somebody become as big as you? And they said it's impossible, essentially, that it's AI 24/7 and even they can't keep up. And that really made me realize that you need to pick an area of focus. You
Mhm.
can't be an expert at everything. And if you're interested in learning about video tools, then focus on video tools. Stay on top of those. Or image generation, focus on all of those. Or processes or automation, pick a lane and like become an expert in that area. And it doesn't mean don't try the other tools, but you don't need to worry about being an expert unless if you're a consultant and somebody hires you to figure out something, you can do the research then or bring somebody onto your team who has that expertise. There's just no way. Things are changing too rapidly. And what you learn today, 3 weeks from now, may not even be relevant. There may be new tools out there. Something may have changed. It's really hard for me to keep up. I have a full-time job. I count on those people who are playing and testing tools, or I just do some research if I need to know.
Mhm. No, I think that's incredibly helpful because otherwise I think you would just drive yourself insane because there's just so much. That's the part that's so crazy. It's like we're literally witnessing this kind of revolution, if you will. And as one Elvis leaves the building, a whole new Elvis comes in. Wait a minute. And they're
Mm.
constantly trying to one up each other. And so it becomes this, I think that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to talk to you is it really does become you have to be solving a problem for yourself or for your business. And that is what allows you to really dive deep and come in with seeing how AI can help you with the win.
Yeah, I really think that one of the biggest pitfalls is chasing the latest AI tools or features. The way to really just it's constantly switching platforms or jumping to a new model every time something new comes out. One day ChatGPT is leading, the next day it's Claude or it's Gemini or no, it's Grok 3 now. And it's just you're just constantly, should I use this one? Should I use that one? Let's say ChatGPT just launched some new features. Like I was using Canvas earlier today, which was super cool. But does that mean I drop the other large language model that I've been using? No, not necessarily. Maybe next week they have something cool. So I would just say not jumping back and forth. And if you have the resources to build a tech stack with multiple tools, but you also have to think about as you're jumping from tool to tool, you may end up with data fragmentation. So I've got all this stuff in ChatGPT, and then I've got other stuff in maybe another tool. And then it's really end up fragmenting all your knowledge. I don't think that's a really good result. And you also lose that efficiency and that personalization that I was mentioning earlier with like custom instructions and things that you've dialed in to make it really work for you if you're constantly jumping from new tool to new tool.
That's a really good point because I'm starting to hear people say now at this point, but no, I could never switch because ChatGPT knows me now. And I think, oh my God, that really what you're saying, besides the obvious anthropomorphization, blah, 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 is this idea of you've invested so much context into a particular tool that at this point, now it is familiar with your context. And that's the thing that I'm hearing you talk about. It's not so much jumping from thing to thing, but learning how to take advantage of a tool, understanding your data and your context so it can help you solve your problem.
Sure. It's really understanding which is the right tool right now for your specific use case.
Mm-hmm.
And sticking with that until if there is significant improvements in another tool, and really think of that more as a migration to another tool and not just a switch back and forth, right? Like you would do at the like large organizations, they go through a whole migration, like a whole process of moving from one tool to another. It's not just back and forth. So I would definitely take that, be more strategic with that. Unless there's really major improvements with another tool, I wouldn't even think about maybe test out that other tool, but doesn't mean just jump over to it. I really think that the best AI strategy isn't necessarily chasing the latest and shiniest cool tool out there or having a subscription to every model out there either. That's certainly going to get expensive. But it's really about finding that right tool to solve the right problem. And that way it's helping keep your workflow stable and productive and consistent, knowing where all your data is. And I think that will help in the long run keep everything running smoothly for your business.
I am so grateful to have had this chance to learn from you today. So I appreciate your time hugely.
Thank you so much. It's great to be on here and talk about problem statements and using AI tools to solve all of your business challenges. Thanks again.
Thank you for tuning in to Empowered by AI. If today's episode sparked ideas, don't wait. Follow the link in the show notes to visit innovativeaistudio.com and download your free resource created to help you put today's insights into practice. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes packed with more tips, tools, and inspiring stories. Until next time, stay empowered and keep innovating.